We weren't just broke, we were broken. Our marriage was hanging by a thread, the debts were piling up, and every conversation about money ended in silence or shouting. Sound familiar? We know how hopeless it feels to lie awake at night wondering if you'll make it to the end of the month. But what if we told you that rock bottom was actually the beginning of our comeback story? This isn't just another get-rich-quick tale. This is about the mindset shift, the messy arguments, the deep soul work, and yes, the biblical principles that not only rescued our relationship, but laid the foundation for lasting wealth. We discovered that the way we handled money was deeply connected to how we treated each other, how we saw ourselves, and what we believed about our purpose. So what was the turning point? A simple decision that changed everything. And in this video, we're pulling back the curtain to show you exactly how we went from constant stress to complete financial freedom together. If you've ever felt like money was tearing your life apart, this might just be the hope you've been looking for. A lot of people walk into marriage thinking love will solve everything, but soon enough, reality hits the bank account. When two lives become one, so do financial habits, beliefs about money, and sometimes even debt. That's where financial planning becomes more than just spreadsheets, it becomes survival. Open conversations about budgeting, debt, and shared goals can turn stress into strategy. A strong marriage isn't just about roses and romantic dinners, it's also built on trust, teamwork, and discipline with money. I've seen couples on the verge of bankruptcy turn things around by aligning their financial behaviors. A heartfelt talk about values can be more impactful than any expensive gift. When both partners adopt a growth mindset, challenges stop being threats and start becoming opportunities. Marriage can actually be a fast track to financial freedom if approached with intention. While one partner manages everyday expenses, the other might dive into investing or explore real estate opportunities. When you combine strengths, you multiply results. And when generosity becomes part of the equation inspired by biblical principles, money stops being the end goal and starts serving a bigger purpose. Sounds idealistic? Maybe, but it's also a strategy that works. Hitting rock bottom financially feels like the end, but it can actually be the beginning of something powerful. When you're staring at debt, overdue bills, and the fear of bankruptcy, there's no room for pretending anymore. That's when the real work starts. And strangely enough, that moment of collapse often becomes the turning point. Because once you lose everything, you finally get the chance to rebuild with intention and purpose. The road to financial freedom rarely starts with a windfall. It usually starts with facing hard truths. Maybe you were living beyond your means, ignoring your budget, or trying to impress others because of social pressure. Whatever the reason, it's only by owning your mistakes that you can shift your financial behavior. That shift is what lays the foundation for smarter choices, like saving aggressively, cutting unnecessary expenses, or studying how investments actually work. Rebuilding isn't just about money, it's about your mindset, your relationships, and the discipline to do things differently. It's saying no to quick fixes and yes to sustainable habits. It might mean selling a car, moving to a smaller place, or embracing frugality for a season. But each small decision stacks up. And when guided by faith and biblical wisdom, that new life you're building doesn't just get you out of debt, it gives your money real meaning. Most people think of a budget as something restrictive, like a financial prison. But in reality, it's the exact opposite. A well-crafted budget gives you clarity, control, and most importantly, freedom. It tells your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. For many who've turned their lives around, the first real shift happened when they finally sat down, listed every expense, and faced the numbers, no more guessing. Creating a budget isn't about cutting out coffee or living like a monk, it's about alignment. When you know your values and your goals, you start spending on what actually matters. Want to invest in real estate? Great. Your budget becomes the roadmap. Want to break free from debt? Your budget will show you the way. And once both partners in a marriage commit to that plan, it becomes a powerful act of unity and strategy. Over time, budgeting shapes your financial behavior. It builds discipline, helps curb impulsive spending, and gives you space to be generous without guilt. It can even reduce friction in your relationships because everything is out in the open, no more surprises. The irony? The more structured your finances become, the more peace and flexibility you actually gain. And that's when the shift in your mindset truly begins to stick. Debt doesn't just mess with your wallet, it creeps into your marriage, your emotions, and even your self-worth. It brings stress, blame, and sleepless nights, especially when there's no clear plan. Some couples stop talking altogether because every conversation turns into a fight about money. But debt isn't the enemy, silence is. When you face it together with honesty and teamwork, it becomes a battle you can actually win. The first step is transparency. Sit down and lay it all out: the credit cards, the loans, the late payments. This isn't about shame, it's about planning. One person might have brought more debt into the relationship, but now it's a shared mission. And with a solid budget, consistent payments, and a clear timeline, it stops feeling like a mountain and starts looking like a hill, one you can climb side by side. More than anything, overcoming debt as a couple builds resilience. It strengthens your values, sharpens your financial habits, and draws you closer emotionally. You learn to prioritize, to sacrifice together, to celebrate small wins. And when you finally get to that zero balance, the victory isn't just financial, it's relational. That's when you're ready for the next level, not just surviving, but building real wealth. We've all heard it. Buy a house as soon as you can, renting is throwing money away. But that's not always true. In fact, rushing into real estate without a clear financial plan can trap you instead of freeing you. The hidden costs, maintenance, taxes, repairs can quietly drain your budget and create new layers of debt. Sometimes renting while you build discipline and save strategically is the smarter long game. The dream of homeownership often comes from social pressure, wanting to feel successful or keep up with friends. But smart money moves aren't about status, they're about strategy. If buying a property means you'll be house poor, unable to invest or enjoy life, then what's the point? Real freedom comes when your home supports your goals, not when it becomes a burden you silently resent. There's a time and a place for buying, especially if it aligns with your purpose, long-term plans, and cash flow. But it should be a conscious choice, not a reflex. Some of the wealthiest people started with frugality, renting small places while investing aggressively elsewhere. Your living situation doesn't define your success. Your mindset, your behavior, and your values do. And those are the real foundations worth building on. It may sound backwards, but giving is often the first step toward receiving. According to biblical wisdom, generosity isn't about having extra, it's about trusting that you'll always have enough. When you give from a place of faith, you activate a completely different financial mindset. It shifts the focus from scarcity to abundance, and that change has real-life consequences not just spiritually, but practically. The truth is, generous people think long-term. They give not because they're trying to impress anyone, but because it's aligned with their values and purpose. Whether it's supporting a cause, helping a family in need, or tithing, generosity reinforces financial discipline. It forces you to plan, to prioritize, and to let go of selfish impulses. Ironically, those who give consistently often manage their money better than those who don't. Over time, generosity becomes more than an action. It becomes a way of living. It improves your relationships, inspires trust, and attracts opportunities you'd never expect. I've seen people go from financial ruin to thriving simply because they adopted a generous heart and a responsible plan. It's not magic, it's the power of intention, faith, and alignment. And sometimes, the most generous people are the ones who once had nothing. If you want to transform your finances, start by taking a look at who's sitting at your table. The people closest to you, friends, family, mentors, have a massive influence on your financial behavior. Some will challenge you to grow, others will quietly drain your energy, your money, and your dreams. If you're surrounded by folks who normalize debt and impulsive spending, breaking free gets a whole lot harder. That's why intentional relationships are key. You need people who respect your discipline, share your values, and understand your purpose. These are the ones who won't roll their eyes when you stick to a budget, pass on a flashy purchase, or spend Friday night reading a book about investing. They're not just friends, they're financial allies. And they can help you stay grounded when the pressure to conform kicks in. One of the most powerful things you can do is find a community that supports your growth. Whether it's a small group at church, a mastermind, or even just a friend who gets it. As Proverbs says, walk with the wise and become wise. When your circle is aligned with your vision, financial freedom becomes more than a goal, it becomes your new normal. Frugality often gets mistaken for being cheap, but there's a big difference. Being frugal means spending with purpose, not out of fear. It's the art of getting more value out of every dollar, and it's a mindset that builds wealth over time. Some of the most financially successful people aren't flashy, they're strategic. They know the power of saying no today so they can say yes to something greater tomorrow. Living frugally doesn't mean you have to sacrifice joy. It just means redefining what joy looks like. Do you really need the latest phone, or would a weekend getaway bring more lasting memories? Do you need a new car, or is a well-maintained used one better aligned with your financial goals? This mindset frees up cash for investment, generosity, or even a future home, things that truly support your long-term purpose. When you embrace frugality, you also reduce stress. You're not living paycheck to paycheck or drowning in debt, and that peace of mind is priceless. It sharpens your discipline and teaches you to align your spending with your values. And here's the kicker. When you're not ruled by money, you start to rule it. That's when true financial freedom begins to take root, not in excess but in intentionality. Every day we wake up and face the same quiet war, what we want now versus what we want most. That's the tension between desire and discipline, and it's the battlefield of every person chasing financial freedom. It shows up when you walk past a sale, scroll through social media, or get that sudden urge to upgrade your life. The temptation is constant, but so is the opportunity to choose better. Discipline isn't about being cold or robotic. It's about remembering your purpose. It's the skill of saying not now, so you can say yes to something bigger later. And like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it. Every time you choose your budget over your impulses or your investment plan over a shopping spree, you're proving to yourself that your vision matters more than a moment of pleasure. This battle doesn't disappear. As you grow, it just evolves. But here's the secret: the more aligned your spending is with your values, the less you feel like you're missing out. You stop chasing the high of instant gratification and start experiencing the deep satisfaction of long-term gain. And that shift in mindset? That's what separates people who stay stuck from those who step into wealth and legacy. Money's a great tool, but a terrible master. When you chase profit without purpose, it's easy to feel rich on paper but empty inside. Real wealth is about more than numbers. It's about using your resources to build a life that actually means something. That's where your values come in. They act like a compass, guiding every financial decision towards something that lights you up instead of wearing you down. Aligning your money with your mission means being intentional. It's asking, is this purchase, this investment, this sacrifice getting me closer to the impact I want to have? Maybe it's supporting causes you care about, building a business that uplifts your community, or creating margin to invest in your relationships. When your finances support your purpose, you don't just grow richer, you grow more fulfilled. Here's the truth: your calling doesn't require perfection, but it does require planning. That's why you need a solid financial strategy, a mix of budgeting, wise investments, and the courage to say no to good things so you can say yes to the best things. Profit is powerful, but when it serves your life mission and not the other way around, that's when everything starts to click and your money starts working for you. Maybe you saw yourself in our story. Maybe you're standing where we once stood, overwhelmed, tired, unsure of the next step. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's this: no financial situation is too far gone when you're willing to change your mindset, take responsibility, and walk the journey together. And it doesn't have to take a miracle, just one intentional choice at a time. So ask yourself, what's truly guiding your financial decisions? fear, or purpose? Are your relationships helping you grow or pulling you down? And what would happen if you aligned your money with the mission God placed in your heart? You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start. If this message hit home for you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs encouragement. And hey, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because your journey to financial freedom, stronger relationships, and a life with meaning is just getting started.